one of the things I learnt quite a while ago now is what I really want to talk about tonight, and that is getting our heads right, but not waiting for that. Because if you're a personality like me, you can spend a lot of time reading, you can spend a lot of time in personal development and self-improvement. I love that stuff. I love learning how the human ticks, what makes them tick. But if you're just a consumer of that material, it's all good and well and you'll get a lot of warm and fuzzy feelings, but the rubber doesn't hit the road. So what I want to talk about is a term I learnt quite a while ago now, and a use of that term called posture, and how you position yourself in front of a potential client. I'm going to come from a business development type perspective tonight. If you're not involved in business development yourself, you can consider the fact that you should be, regardless of what role you're doing. The hardest selling job I ever had, I believe, was in teaching. It was harder than selling real estate. It was harder than selling radio advertising. It was harder than selling mobile phones and a few other areas that I've been involved in. Because you're trying to sell a concept to somebody that sees no immediate value whatsoever, in most cases. Not all kids are like that. So essentially, that's what I want to frame it around. I want you to come away from tonight at least questioning how you position yourself in front of a potential client. And there's three things I want to talk about, and I'll get to those in a moment. So first of all, I want you to consider that you have found the cure for cancer. And I don't belittle this topic at all. I lost my father to cancer, so I'm not belittling it at all. I understand that it is a bit of a holy grail. But I want you to imagine that your product or service is that important to your potential clients. And if it was that important to them, would you position yourself with a different posture in front of them? Because I believe that more business owners, I believe that more business people, when they get their positioning right, they'll get better clients and they'll be the buyer more than the seller, which is what I believe you should be. And if you think about who should control the buying or the negotiation or the transaction process, shouldn't it be the person who provides the solution? Who's in control when you go to the doctor? The person providing the solution. Now, I'm going to wrap that up in a little bit of context as well, because it's obviously not that simple. So, first of all, I want you to imagine you've got the cure. Now, if you haven't heard of Seth Godin and you're in business, you need to make yourself familiar with him, I believe, among other thought leaders, but I think he's a great place to start if you're not educating yourself around business already, and I'd imagine if you're in this room you are, because I guess this could be the start, if nothing else. And Seth Godin talked about a book, which I read a long time ago when I was first in sales, called Secrets of Closing the Sale by Zig Ziglar. And early on when I read it, I didn't quite get it. It didn't sit real well with me. And there's a couple of sales jobs I've had which I didn't do real well in because I didn't believe in what I was selling. And when I read that book, I thought it was manipulative, I thought it was strategic, and I thought it was, I guess, a little underhanded and subversive. Until I realised, and I reread it again later on, and I read a section of it over and over again because it's easy to gloss over that section. And the section is, it talks about a prospect only being a prospect if they have a genuine need for what you offer. If they have a genuine need for what you offer, do you not have a duty to at least educate them on the solution you provide? And that's what Seth Godin says about that book. He said, nobody likes to buy because it's change. Nobody likes change forced upon them. But if you believe in your heart of hearts, and you've done your discovery with them, you've done your diagnostic, whatever you'd like to call it, you've gotten to know, you've dug deep enough to know that they have a problem that you can fix. They're not in denial about it. And if you're in business, you've probably met lots of prospects who are in denial. You know they need your product or service, but convincing them could be another challenge. If you know deep down that they have a problem that you can provide the solution for, and they knew what you knew, would they buy? If they knew what you knew, wouldn't they? So, I hope you're here because you want to build on what you're already doing. I hope you're here because you realise you don't know everything you need to know to get where you want to go. Neither do I. And I hope you're here with the right intent, because one of the 3 pillars I'm going to talk about is intent. What's your intent when you're in front of a potential prospect? Is it to make your budget? Is it to make a sale because you're pretty sure they need it? Is it because the boss said you've got to get out and make some more sales? Is it because you need more turnover in your business because things are getting tight and the squeeze is on? None of those are good reasons, are they? They're not the right reason. So why are you there? And for whose purpose? Because if you are really there to help them, then tomorrow you should be able to double, triple or quadruple your referral sales. Because if you're really there to help them, you will have absolutely no hesitation in asking them for a referral. And I believe most of us are hesitant to ask. Harvard did a study that the results came back that 91% of customers would give a referral if asked. 10% of those customers were ever asked for a referral. Do you have a process? I talk to a lot of small business owners, and I can tell you, and I hope I don't offend anyone in this room, but I can tell you I get lied to time and time again when they tell me most of my business comes from word of mouth, because they can never prove to me any figures, they can't show me any metrics, they can't tell me exactly how many or where they come from or who their best source of referrals is. It's just that they're the warm and fuzzy ones you remember, aren't they? So what's your process? Do you have a process for generating word of mouth referrals? At what point do you ask? And I genuinely believe that if you were there in the first place to help them, you'll have no hesitation asking for a referral. Let's go back to the original, and I know it's an extreme, but the original framework. If you had the cure for cancer and you just cured somebody, would you not ask them if they knew somebody else that could do with your help? Would you?
Absolutely.
Of course you would. So if you're not that passionate about what you sell, why not? And I think, you see, the whole game of selling has changed through technology. I was at a very large motor vehicle dealership, new car dealership today, and the marketing manager that I was talking to said, and this won't be the first time you've heard this either, she said, our customers come in knowing more about the car they want to buy than the salesperson now, because they've done their research. And they can research it. So the power base has shifted quite quickly. Your customer knows a lot more than what they used to 5 years ago, and especially 10 years ago, when the salesperson was the font of knowledge. They came to you to do research, or your business. They came to your business to do their research. And if you're not acutely aware of the change in that power base, then you're starting to lose the battle for relevance. This particular dealership spends over $1 million a year on marketing, and less than 10% of it is digital. I wonder if they're going to lose the battle for relevance. Just a thought. The first place I want you to come from is one of abundance. There is. Hands up if your business could handle every single person in your market coming to you tomorrow and asking to do business with you. Could you handle it? So there's enough business out there, isn't there? There's plenty of business out there. But are you searching rather than convincing? And I'll get to that in a moment. So the three pillars are abundance, intent, and detachment. And if, like me, you don't like hearing no, you don't like, no, we're right, because I don't know that anybody does like hearing it, but if you come from abundance, the right intent and detachment, it's just next. Because your intent is to help those that care more about their problem than you do making a sale. If they don't care as much about solving their problem as you do about making a sale, they're in denial. And you can spend your time better elsewhere. So, let's look at abundance briefly. There are, as of yesterday, over 750,000 people on LinkedIn saying that they're from the Brisbane area. Now that generally means anywhere from Sunny Coast, Gold Coast, Toowoomba, could be anywhere, Philippines. Had that before. So, now not all of those are prospects. And when I say prospect, I don't mean somebody that you can convince to sell. I mean somebody that has the money, the authority, and the need for what you've got. Otherwise, they're not a prospect at all. Prospect's a word that can sometimes not sit real well with some people. It didn't sit real well with me for a while until I understood exactly what they are, and they are somebody that needs your help, providing you've got the right solution. Now, of those 750,000 people, do you think some of them might know some people that have problems that you could help solve? They might not be a direct prospect of yours, but that's the point. What you'll learn through this community, what I learned through this community, is that if you give to enough people, if you create enough business for enough people that know who you're looking for, they'll go and find them for you. And you will create your own marketing team that costs you nothing. And it's very, very powerful. It's very powerful. It takes a bit of time, and it takes a bit of effort on your part, a bit of sweat equity, to create value for other people. And most of those people will bring value back to you. Not all, but most will. The next is the intent. Stop trying to turn dirt into gold. The term prospect came from the original prospecting days when it came to sales, and the prospectors, they weren't trying to convince the dirt it was gold. They were looking for the gold amongst the dirt. I think sometimes we fall into the trap of trying to convince somebody that they're a prospect. And they're not. Keep searching. Selling is more about searching these days than it is about persuasion and convincing, much more. I believe you still need an element of persuasion to bring people from a lack of awareness even that they may have an issue. But it's not about persuading them that you've got a solution to a problem they don't even have. Does that make sense? Okay. The same, if you're an employee, what's your intent at work? Is your intent to add value to your organisation, or is it simply to make sure you're there early enough that the boss sees you, you do just enough that you don't attract any attention, and you stay employed? There's a lot of people out there doing that. A lot of people out there doing that. Maybe some of your staff are doing that. Definitely. And it's cruisy. They're usually the ones that can't wait till Friday. So they're wishing 5/7 of their life away. Now, this one I think is crucial, and it took me a little while to get onto this, but when I did, it enabled me to see more people. It enabled me to say, no thanks, I don't think we can do business together because I don't want to do business with you. I don't think we actually fit with each other. Now, I need to clarify something. Detachment means that you are not emotionally attached to the outcome of any particular interaction with a prospective buyer, a prospective business partner, whatever. So you can sit with somebody from a perspective of, hey, look, I don't know if we're right for each other, but we can have a chat. If I can't help you, I'll let you know. If you know that you don't need anything that I can help you with, feel free to end this conversation whenever you like. I've been doing some work with somebody at the moment who is after exclusive relationships in a few particular niches. And it's awesome. I love dealing with him because I can sit down with somebody and say, look, we're only looking for one. There's 100 of you in Brisbane. We only want one. If it's not you, that's okay. We'll move on. And you don't need everybody. You don't need everybody. I really think that when I finished uni, I went into retail management, and the customer was always right, was what we were told. And I didn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. Because there was no way I was managing supermarkets, there is no way I would let a customer yell and scream at my checkout operators because they've had a bad day. I just wouldn't tolerate it. Why should they get to yell and scream at a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid who's just trying to do their best? Just because they had a horrible day and something happened to them on their way through the aisles or whatever. And the customer is not always right. And you, I believe, I know it's right for me, I'm a much better operator when I'm dealing with people that I like to deal with. Which means I'm also a much better operator for the next people I deal with, which means I'm a much better operator for the next people I deal with. I'm not taking negative baggage away from poor relationships and poor clients and making me less effective for the ones that I want to deal with. And it takes a little bit of a risk, but it's like that mentality. You've got to throw out the old before you can make room for the new. And when you do start sacking some clients, you start sacking some customers, you'll find better ones will pop up. Yeah. Whilst you shouldn't be detached to the outcome, you definitely should. You shouldn't be attached to the outcome. You definitely should be attached to your process. You should work your process. So that doesn't mean that you're sitting with somebody and, no, it's cool, I learned about detachment. I don't even have to listen to you. I'm cool. Obviously not. Okay, you need to be attached to your process, and it's your process which involves listening, which involves questioning, which involves, digging to see if they have an issue that you can help with. It's your process that you follow. And in a sporting analogy, I can guarantee you one thing. Wayne Bennett doesn't say to the Broncos before they go out, okay, I need you to go out and score more points tonight. That's not his coaching plan. In fact, the best coaches I've ever worked with try really, really, really hard to get their players to forget all about the scoreboard and to play a process no matter what the score is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So stop trying to score and enjoy playing the game. Enjoy your process. And you'll enjoy your business more. Now, is there anybody here that sells or offers a fairly generic offering? There might be a lot of other players in your market and it's a little difficult to differentiate. Is there anyone in that sort of space at the moment? One of the things I learnt quite a while ago from a much smarter person than me is to make your process the differentiation. What do you do before the transaction? And if I give you an example, everybody knows a photocopier salesperson, or everyone at least probably knows a photocopier. And they'll often deal with a business manager or a... Is there one in the room? Yes. Yep. Okay.
Oh, really? I'm a nice guy.
Hey, look. The good ones are. The good ones are.
Because it worked on a copy.
That's good. So a reasonably generic product. Okay, there's a lot out there, and I know that the good photocopy salespeople, they're very good at maths too, and they can show you how to the permutations and how to save money, essentially. But I've got to make sure I get my example good now, don't I? I was thinking of something that everybody could kind of relate to. I would suggest that most often, and in my experience, I've dealt with somebody like a business manager or maybe a finance manager or a procurement manager or something like that, maybe an office manager. And the process for some might simply be to go and speak to that person. And if they're selling a Canon or they're selling a Konica Minolta or whatever, and there isn't a great deal of difference, even though there obviously is differences, but to the average person they probably need some education on what they might be, could they differentiate the process or at least position themselves differently by saying or by doing, by going and speaking to the copy boy, by going and speaking to the receptionist and proving to the prospective buyer that, hey, our process is different because I'm not just trying to sell you, the person with the purse strings, I'm actually trying to solve these other problems as well. Does that make sense as an example?
Yes.
Does it make any sense at all?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So your process can be different. And I believe good salespeople, who remembers what they look like and the name of the last person they bought credit from a mobile phone from?
I did just before.
Yep. And you remember their name, what they look like? You'd remember if you run into them again?
Name, but I dealt with him in a different place, and I remembered him and he remembered me, and that's why I went with him, because
Excellent.
I liked his service.
Brilliant. That's pretty much the same example. I took my daughter, when I upgraded, I gave her, she's 12, I gave her my old iPhone, wasn't going to put her on a plan, and I took her into a carrier's shop, and he knew, the salesperson knew, his name was Michael, and I said, I just need a SIM card and some credit for this phone. And he said, yeah, no worries. Does she know how to use it? I said, no, I was going to try and teach her. And he said, well, does she know how to recharge? I said, she doesn't even know anything. He said, come on. And he took her over and he spent half an hour with her for a $32 transaction. And I've seen that guy since at other branches, and I remember him every single time.
Same, my one let me charge my phone and leave it there, and
Yep.
I spent more than half an hour with him, only for a $30 transaction.
Yeah. And I know where I'll go next time. Absolutely. So, differentiate through the process. That guy could have taken the $32, given me my SIM card, my charging voucher, whatever it was, and said, there you go. Because I knew how to do it. But he also built a relationship with my daughter. And she was stoked. Because I don't know if you have the same issue that your kids don't always believe you when you tell them how to do something. But you still need to be assertive. Detachment doesn't mean, as I said, it doesn't mean you just sit back and you let potential clients walk all over you. Not at all. In fact, it's just the opposite. As I said earlier, don't fall for the trap of caring more about a sale than they do about having their problem fixed. If they don't care about having their problem fixed, walk away and find somebody else. And you can feel free to say, look, it's not you, it's me. Okay, it's just like breaking up. Although it's really them. So I talked about this a little bit earlier, but what is your process? If you don't have one, start one. And you can start by going back to, first of all, where did your best clients come from? Think about your last 10 best clients. Where'd they come from? How did you attract them? Did they come through online? Did they come from word of mouth? Excuse me, did they come from advertising? Did they come from direct outreach? Did you phone, cold call, build an affiliate relationship with somebody who also deals with those people? Where did they come from? Your 10 best. And then go to them. Remember, you helped them. You helped them. So why can't you go to them and say, look, I'm looking at expanding. I've got a few different options to try and expand my business. One is I could pump a lot of money into advertising. Another is I could hire a telemarketing team. Another is I could put on a sales rep or a BDM. But you were happy with what we did with you. I'm only looking for a few key clients. Who do you know that's got a similar situation to what you had? You'd be surprised. At the very least, you'll have broken out of your comfort zone and asked. And I don't think anybody that you helped is going to resent that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
And it works. And then you start this cumulative effect. And you will double, triple, or even quadruple your referral clients just by doing that. And you'll also set yourself up, when those new clients come in, to have a process of asking. Okay? So, I believe the three best pillars you can come from. Now, again, this is all about getting it right in your head and reminding yourself every morning or before any potential appointment, before presenting any proposal, before getting on the phones, before doing anything. Because I think a lot of us hide behind email these days because there's a lot of people making a lot of money out there selling programs to help you write the killer email that's going to bring all the business into you. And whilst I think an email strategy is, most businesses should have one, if you're not putting a little bit of skin in the game and getting yourself uncomfortable by getting on the phone, by meeting people, by developing a networking strategy, then I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Yeah. It's not going to come in otherwise. So, think abundance. There wasn't a person here that could put up their hand and say they could handle all the business out there if it came to them tomorrow. And what about with some of the clients that you've helped? Can you help them some more? I don't know if you're the same, but in my earlier days in business, I didn't want to ask for any more business because I thought, no, I've got to get out and get the cheque cleared before he changes his mind. Surely no one else has had that feeling. But you should be able to ask if there's any other ways you can help, shouldn't you? Yeah. So, abundance, intent. Go with the right intent. If your intent is to truly help them, then you'll be prepared to walk away if they don't need helping, and you'll be prepared to ask the questions like, look, if we can't get the boss in on this meeting, I don't know if there's much point us wasting each other's time. Because I don't know if you've been sitting in front of somebody trying to convince the wrong person in the past. I had. It's frustrating because those people can't say yes, but what can they say? They can say no and block any further progress. So be careful. I actually spend a lot more time qualifying on the phone now. I spent a time, way back, I've had quite a few iterations in business development and in my own businesses. And I used to take any appointment I could get. And I'd be sitting down with people a lot who just wanted friends. They were lovely appointments. They were warm and fuzzy, but they didn't put any food on the table, and they certainly didn't help that business. They just wasted more of their time. So the intent and the detachment. Attach yourself to a process. Do not attach yourself to an outcome. And most sort of soft referral networking strategies generally take 3 to 6 months before you start to see some return, but it's momentum. Now, it's different in different industries, I know that, and there's certainly some people that have been able to generate results a lot quicker than that. But ultimately, most people want to know if you're just going to be one of those people that wants business and isn't prepared to give any business back. So there's got to be an element of trust built up, and that happens in environments. And I mentioned, if anyone was there on Monday night, I mentioned that I've actually used those environments now to filter potential clients for myself. Because I do want to know what sort of values they've got. I want to know what they're like outside of the office. I want to know what they're like when I'm not buying the coffee. And I want to know what they're like in front of other people. And what happens is you'll meet other people. You'll bring potential clients into the room. Those potential clients will see that you're connected to a very dynamic group. You can't pay for that type of edification. When they see that you're connected and they think, I need to get closer to them because they are connected. And that, in the new economy, again, Seth Godin, who I mentioned before, he talks about the connection economy. We're all connected digitally and we're disconnected physically and emotionally. So environments like that, you'll find if you put yourself in there, I don't have to convince you, I'll be there. And I know that it's the best business development strategy I've got by far. It beats direct outreach, it beats emails, it beats everything. So I'll leave you with that, but if you can practice those 3 things and at least try and get your head around it. There's a really good book called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. You may have heard of that. I'll put these up on the board while Brendan wraps up. There's also, there's also Permission Marketing by Seth Godin, anything by Seth Godin. He's got about 12 or 15 books out there now. Anything by him is just fantastic. Yeah. And there's another one I got onto recently called Same Game, New Rules by Bill Caskey. And they have a podcast called the Advanced Selling Podcast. Now, they're sales trainers, but I still believe everybody in this room is selling something.